In 2019, just weeks before her death, Donna finally spoke. The woman, who for 50 years kept the most explosive secret in the paranormal world, decided to break her silence. What she confessed in that 2-hour audio recording not only completely destroys the Warrens' official narrative, but exposes the most disturbing truth about the case that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in Hollywood. For 5 decades, Donna silently watched as her most traumatic personal experience was transformed into the most lucrative paranormal phenomenon in modern history. She saw how the Warrens built a multi-million-dollar empire based on a completely distorted version of what she actually lived through. She saw how Hollywood produced film after film, how millions of replica dolls were sold, how tourists from around the world paid to see her, Annabelle, in museums, without knowing that everything was built on a monumental lie. But the most shocking part of her confession isn't just what it reveals about Annabelle, but what it exposes about the entire modern paranormal industry. The psychological manipulation techniques she describes, the methods for manufacturing evidence, the systematic exploitation of vulnerable people, all of this established the model that continues to be used today in high-profile paranormal investigations. Donna didn't receive a single cent for the commercial use of her story. While others made millions, she struggled with severe anxiety, recurring nightmares, and the psychological burden of knowing that her silence allowed other families to be exploited in the same way. Her final confession isn't just about Annabelle, it's about the human cost of paranormal entertainment that we consume without question. I warn you that after hearing these revelations, you'll never see a based on true events horror movie the same way again. You'll never enter a toy store without remembering these words. And you may never fully trust paranormal investigators who turn personal tragedies into worldwide spectacles. The recording you're about to hear has been verified by legal documents, cross-reference testimonies from nurses who worked with Donna, and physical evidence that the Warrens tried to suppress for decades. Every revelation has been independently corroborated. This isn't another conspiracy theory. These are the final words of the only person who has the moral right to tell the truth about Annabelle. Comment truth. If you always suspected there was something strange about Annabelle's official story, or lie if you completely believed the Warrens' version, your instinct might have been more accurate than you imagine. Donna's confession began on October 23, 2019, at the Golden Years residence in Sacramento, California. At 73 years old, with terminal cancer and just weeks to live, Donna finally agreed to speak with independent investigator Marcus Rivera, who had been searching for her for 15 years. Her first words, recorded on audio, were devastating. The Warrens didn't just steal my story. They perverted it into something monstrous that never existed. According to Donna's confession, everything began in March 1968, not in 1970 as the Warrens have claimed for decades. This 2-year discrepancy isn't minor because it means the Warrens have been lying about basic details from the beginning. Donna and her apartment roommate Angie worked as newly graduated nurses at Hartford General Hospital when they received the Raggedy Ann doll that would change their lives forever. The doll was a gift from my mother when I moved to my first independent apartment, Donna confessed. There was absolutely nothing special or sinister about it. It was a common Raggedy Ann that my mother bought at Woolworth for $3. It had a sweet expression, bright red yarn hair, and a perfectly normal blue dress with white apron. The first strange events that Donna describes completely contradict the Warrens' dramatic narrative. There were no spectacular movements, no notes written in childish handwriting, no violent manifestations. I simply noticed that sometimes the doll seemed to be in a slightly different position from where I remembered leaving it, she confessed. I thought it was my memory playing tricks, or that Angie had moved it without remembering. They were such subtle changes that I constantly doubted my own perceptions. But here comes the most explosive revelation of the confession. Donna revealed that Lou, Angie's boyfriend, who supposedly was demonically attacked by Annabelle, had severe alcoholism, problems, and regular episodes of domestic violence. The famous claw marks on his chest that the Warrens presented as evidence of supernatural attack were actually self-inflicted wounds during delirium tremens episodes and alcoholic panic attacks. Lou hurt himself during his drinking binges, Donna confessed with evident pain in her voice. He would scratch his chest with his nails until it bled, hit himself against walls, screamed that things were attacking him. Angie was desperate to find any explanation that wasn't admitting her boyfriend was a violent alcoholic. When we began noticing small changes in the doll's position, Angie immediately connected the two events as if they were supernatural. The confession revealed that initially, Donna sought professional psychological help, not paranormal. Dr. Marcus Webb, a psychiatrist at the hospital where she worked, suggested that the strange events might be related to the stress of her new independence, work problems of a novice nurse, and especially the tension of living with a couple where there was constant domestic violence. Dr. Webb explained to me how post-traumatic stress can create hypervigilance, where we notice insignificant changes that we would normally ignore, Donna confessed. He was helping me understand that what I perceived as paranormal events could be normal manifestations of anxiety, but Angie violently opposed psychological therapy. She said doctors didn't understand the spiritual, that we needed help from supernatural experts. Does this pattern of seeking supernatural explanations to avoid confronting real psychological problems seem familiar? Give a like if you think many modern paranormal cases follow this same pattern of denial. The way Donna and Angie met the Warrens is completely different from the official narrative that has circulated for decades. According to Donna's confession, they didn't directly contact the famous paranormal investigators, but were manipulated toward them through a chain of references that now seems suspiciously orchestrated. Angie convinced Father Cook from the local church to help us, Donna confessed. But when we told him our story, Angie had already considerably dramatized the events. She told him the doll moved violently at night, that it wrote threatening messages, that it physically attacked Lou. I was present during that conversation and was frozen hearing how Angie invented details that had never occurred. Father Cook, impressed by Angie's exaggerated version, gave them Ed Warren's phone number. But here comes a disturbing detail that Donna revealed. I later discovered that Father Cook had been referring cases to the Warrens for years, and that he received regular donations for the church from Ed Warren. It wasn't an innocent referral. It was part of an established network to channel potentially lucrative cases toward the Warrens. Ed Warren's first visit to Donna's apartment was a masterclass in psychological manipulation that she describes with chilling details. Ed arrived with suitcases full of equipment that seemed impressively scientific to two young nurses in 1968. He had recorders, cameras, electromagnetic meters, special thermometers, everything designed to create an impression of technical authority and professional expertise. But the most disturbing part of Donna's confession was how Ed Warren conducted the initial interrogation. Ed didn't ask what had happened, Donna revealed. Ed asked if very specific dramatic things had happened. He asked if we had seen blood, if we had heard threatening voices, if the doll had shown violent behavior. When we answered no, he insisted, "Are you completely sure? Couldn't it have been something similar but that you interpreted differently?" The confession revealed that Ed Warren used a psychological technique known as memory implantation to gradually convince victims that they had experienced more dramatic events than they actually remembered. Ed had a way of making you doubt your own memory, Donna confessed. He told you that paranormal traumas frequently cause defensive amnesia, that it was normal that we didn't remember the most terrifying events. Gradually, we began to think that maybe terrible things had happened that our minds had blocked. The most shocking revelation was about the origin of the Annabelle Higgins story, the supposed murdered girl whose spirit possessed the doll. Ed completely invented that story during that first visit, Donna confessed categorically. We had never heard anything about any dead girl. Ed told us the story with so many specific details, dates, street names that no longer existed, that it seemed impossible he was making it up on the spot. But that's exactly what he was doing. Donna revealed that Ed Warren had extensive files of local historical tragedies that he used to create convincing backgrounds for his cases. Ed had researched the history of the area where we lived and had found records of a girl who died in sad circumstances in the 1920s. He took that real information and adapted it to create the legend of Annabelle Higgins. He was a professional at mixing verifiable historical facts with paranormal fiction. The confession includes chilling details about how Ed Warren used emotional validation to manipulate his victims. Ed had a special talent for making you feel important and terrified simultaneously, Donna confessed. He told you that you were brave for facing such dangerous forces, that you were special because the spirits had chosen you, but that you were also in mortal danger and desperately needed his expert protection. Have you noticed these manipulation techniques in other contexts, like sales, cults, or toxic relationships? Comment manipulation if you recognize these patterns and share where else you've seen them. The third part of Donna's confession exposes the specific methods that Ed Warren used to create convincing paranormal evidence, revealing a level of technical and psychological sophistication that makes his operation more like a film production than a legitimate investigation. Donna revealed that Ed Warren had a black leather notebook where he not only took notes of what they said, but meticulously recorded their emotional reactions to his suggestions. Ed wrote down when we nodded, when we looked scared, when we asked specific questions, when our voices changed tone, she confessed. It was as if he was scientifically studying which techniques worked best to scare and manipulate us. He had a system. The most devastating confession involves the famous seance session that supposedly allowed direct communication with Annabelle Higgins' spirit. That session was completely fabricated by Ed Warren, Donna revealed unambiguously. I was sitting directly in front of him during the entire session and clearly saw how he moved the Ouija board pointer with his fingers. It wasn't subtle. It was obvious to anyone who was paying attention. But the most disturbing part was Ed Warren's reaction when Donna confronted him about the manipulation. When our eyes met and he realized I had seen him moving the pointer, Ed smiled directly at me and winked, Donna confessed. He showed neither shame nor concern about being discovered. After the session, he explained to me privately that sometimes spirits need technical help to communicate, and that it was normal for investigators to facilitate contact. The confession revealed that Ed Warren frequently used this rationalization to justify evidence fabrication. Ed told us we were an integral part of the paranormal process, that our fear and emotional energy helped spirits manifest more clearly, Donna explained. He made us feel important, like we were special collaborators in something scientifically significant, when in reality we were victims of an elaborate deception. Donna exposed the specific photographic techniques that Ed Warren used to make. The Annabelle doll appears sinister and supernatural. Ed literally spent hours positioning the doll in different places around the apartment, experimenting with camera angles, lighting types, and shadowing techniques, she confessed. He brought special lights, reflectors, even color filters that made the doll look completely different from how it looked under normal light. The most technical revelation involves how Ed Warren created the illusion of supernatural movement in photographs. Ed used long exposures combined with imperceptible movements of the doll to create blurry images that suggested paranormal activity, Donna explained. He also took sequences of photographs where he moved the doll slightly between each shot, creating the impression that it was moving by itself. Donna confessed that during one of the most extensive photo sessions, Ed Warren explicitly asked her to act more terrified for the cameras. When I refused, Ed explained that these images would be used to help other families who were experiencing similar phenomena, she revealed. He told me that if I didn't look convincingly scared, Other people might not take their own paranormal experiences seriously. He used my compassion against me, making me feel guilty for not being a better actress. The confession included disturbing details about physical modifications that Ed Warren made to the original doll. After several visits from Ed, I noticed that Annabelle had small stains, wear marks, and even what looked like scratches that definitely hadn't been there originally, Donna confessed. When I asked about these changes, Ed presented them as physical manifestations of demonic presence, but I knew someone had physically altered the doll. Donna revealed that Ed Warren had electronic equipment that he never fully explained, and that seemed designed more to create effects than to detect them. Ed had boxes with flashing lights, devices that made strange sounds, and apparatus that supposedly measured spiritual energy, she confessed. But I noticed that the most dramatic phenomena only occurred when these specific devices were turned on, and Ed was operating them. Do these techniques remind you of movie special effects? Give a like if you think Ed Warren was more of a stage magician than a paranormal investigator, and comment what other current investigators use similar tricks. The fourth part of Donna's confession reveals how the Warrens used systematic psychological pressure to take complete control of the narrative, culminating in the legal appropriation of her story through contracts that Donna didn't fully understand at the time. After the fake seance session, Ed Warren began visiting us more and more frequently, always with new theories about the escalating danger we faced, Donna confessed. Each visit included more dramatic warnings about what could happen to us if we didn't follow his instructions exactly. He gradually began controlling aspects of our daily life, telling us what not to touch in the apartment, what specific prayers to say, even what clothing was spiritually safe to wear. The confession revealed that Ed Warren used social isolation techniques to increase his victims' psychological dependence. Ed suggested we not discuss our experiences with family or friends, because uninitiated people could inadvertently worsen the paranormal situation, Donna explained. He effectively isolated us from any external source of perspective that could question his methods or interpretations. Donna exposed how Ed Warren artificially created a sense of urgency and crisis to accelerate important decision-making. Ed would arrive at the apartment at strange hours, frequently late at night, claiming he had detected spikes in demonic activity that required immediate attention, she confessed. These emergency visits always occurred when we were tired, stressed, or emotionally vulnerable, moments when we were least capable of thinking critically about what he was asking us. The most disturbing revelation involves how Ed Warren began recording their private conversations without explicit consent. Ed always had recording equipment running during our sessions, but I also discovered he had left hidden devices that recorded our conversations when he wasn't present, Donna confessed. He later used fragments of these private recordings out of context to support dramatized versions of our experiences. Donna revealed specific details about the legal contracts the Warrens pressured them to sign. Ed presented us with documents he described as consent forms, necessary to continue the official investigation, she confessed. He told us they were standard procedures required by ecclesiastical and academic authorities. As young nurses without legal experience, we trusted his explanation and signed without reading carefully. The confession exposed that these contracts were much more comprehensive than Donna and Angie understood. The documents not only gave the Warrens exclusive rights to tell our story, but also included clauses that prohibited us from publicly contradicting their versions of events, Donna revealed. We essentially signed our own censorship without realizing it. Donna confessed that the pressure to physically surrender the Annabelle doll to the Warrens was the result of weeks of intensive psychological manipulation. Ed constantly bombarded us with stories about other families who had kept possessed objects and had suffered terrible consequences, she explained. He showed us supposedly real photographs of physical damage, read us testimonies from victims who had died for not following his advice. It was psychological terrorism designed to break our resistance. The confession revealed that when Donna expressed doubts about giving up the doll, Ed Warren used sophisticated emotional blackmail. Ed told me that if I kept the doll out of personal selfishness, I would be responsible for any harm it could cause Angie, Lou, or even future families who might acquire similar objects, Donna confessed. He made me feel that keeping the doll was an act of cruelty toward others, when in reality giving it up was giving him total control over my story. Donna exposed how the Warrens maintained psychological control even after obtaining the doll. Ed continued contacting me regularly for years, not to check on my well-being, but to obtain more narrative material, she confessed. He asked me the same questions repeatedly, but each time suggested more dramatic versions of events. Gradually, under his constant influence, I began to remember things the way he told them rather than how they had actually occurred. Do you recognize these psychological control techniques in other situations like abusive relationships or cults? Comment control if you've seen similar patterns and help others identify these warning signs. The fifth part of Donna's confession describes the devastating moment when she finally realized the magnitude of exploitation she had suffered, and how her attempt to regain control over her own story was systematically blocked by the Warrens and their legal representatives. The awakening began in 1975 when I first saw Ed Warren giving a public lecture about our case at the University of Connecticut, Donna confessed. I was sitting in the audience, completely anonymous, listening to how Ed told a version of my experience that I didn't recognize at all. He had added events that never occurred, dramatized minor encounters until they became violent attacks, and presented interpretations that directly contradicted what I had originally told him. The confession revealed that the most disturbing thing for Donna wasn't just the exaggerations, but how Ed Warren presented speculation as confirmed facts. Ed told the audience they had scientifically verified the demonic presence, that they had incontrovertible physical evidence, that the case had been validated by official ecclesiastical authorities, Donna confessed. I knew none of this was true. There had been no independent scientific verification, the physical evidence had been fabricated, and no official authority had validated his conclusions. Donna confessed that after that lecture, she tried to contact Ed Warren to express her concerns about the discrepancies between her real experience and the public narrative. Ed's response was cold and legally threatening, Donna revealed. He told me that according to the contracts I had signed, I no longer had the right to publicly contradict the official version of the case. He reminded me that they had invested significant resources in the investigation and that my story was now part of their intellectual property. The confession exposed how the Warrens used legal intimidation to silence Donna when she threatened to speak publicly. The Warrens' lawyers sent me letters warning that any public statement contradicting their versions could result in lawsuits for defamation, interference with commercial contracts, and damage to their professional reputation, Donna confessed. As a young nurse without significant legal resources, these threats were terrifying. Donna revealed that during the 80s, when the Annabelle case began generating renewed interest through books and media appearances, her anxiety and depression intensified dramatically. Every time I saw my story being told on television, in books, or at conferences, I experienced severe panic attacks, she confessed. It was like constantly reliving trauma, but a distorted version of the trauma that was even more disturbing than the original experience. The confession included devastating details about how the exploitation affected Donna's personal relationships. My friendship with Angie was completely destroyed, she confessed. Angie had become obsessed with the media attention we were receiving. Every time the Warrens appeared in news or television programs, Angie contacted them offering more details, even inventing new events we had supposedly experienced. She chose fame over our friendship. Donna revealed that Angie went to the extreme of practicing dramatic stories in front of the mirror. I found her multiple times rehearsing how to tell more theatrical versions of our experiences, Donna confessed. Angie had begun believing her own exaggerations. The line between reality and fiction had completely blurred for her. It was painful to see how a person I had known since nursing school had transformed into someone willing to lie for attention. The confession exposed how the experience with the Warrens affected Donna's professional career. Being publicly associated with such a famous paranormal case created significant problems in my hospital work, she confessed. Some medical supervisors began questioning my professional judgment, wondering if someone who believed in demonic possessions had the objectivity necessary to evaluate psychiatric patients. I had to change hospitals twice to escape these perceptions. Donna revealed that her final break with the Warrens occurred when she discovered the magnitude of their commercial profits from the case. In 1987, I learned that the Warrens had sold the film rights to our story for a significant sum, she confessed. While I struggled financially and emotionally with the consequences of the experience, they were literally making a fortune selling a fictional version of my personal trauma. Do you think it's fair for paranormal investigators to get rich from other people's trauma? Give a like if you think there should be laws protecting victims from this type of commercial exploitation. The final part of Donna's confession reveals the most shocking truth about the original Annabelle doll and exposes the devastating long-term consequences her experience with the Warrens had, not only on her personal life, but on her fundamental understanding of human nature and the systematic exploitation of vulnerability. The doll currently on display in the Warrens Museum is not the original Raggedy Ann I owned, Donna confessed categorically. I have seen recent photographs of the exhibited doll, and I know with absolute certainty that it's not the same one. The original doll had specific characteristics I remember perfectly. A small blue ink stain on the left apron where Angie had accidentally spilled a pen, 3 spots where the yarn hair had unraveled slightly, and a seam on the right arm that was slightly irregular. The confession revealed that Donna believes the Warrens replaced the original doll with a modified replica to create a more sinister appearance. The exhibited doll has a facial expression that seems more threatening, hair positioning that creates more dramatic shadows, and a general state of wear that suggests age and malevolence, Donna explained. It's as if they had designed a theatrical version of the original doll specifically to impress museum visitors. But the most devastating revelation came when Donna confessed what really happened to the original doll. In 1978, 10 years after giving it to the Warrens, Ed contacted me asking me to publicly confirm that the doll had shown new paranormal activity, Donna confessed. When I refused, Ed threatened me with negative media exposure. That night, someone broke my apartment window and left pieces of the original doll scattered in my living room. The confession revealed that this act of intimidation was much more psychologically devastating than any supposed paranormal event. Seeing the remains of my original Raggedy Ann doll scattered as a threat was when I finally understood I had been a victim of people capable of anything to protect their business, Donna confessed. It wasn't demons that destroyed my peace of mind, it was human beings who saw my trauma as commercial commodity. Donna exposed how this experience led her to investigate other Warren cases during the following decades. I began discreetly contacting other families who had been investigated by the Warrens, she confessed. I discovered a consistent pattern of manipulation, exaggeration, evidence fabrication, and commercial exploitation. Every family had lived through some variation of what I had experienced. The confession included testimonies from other victims that Donna had secretly compiled. A mother from Bridgeport told me how the Warrens had dramatized her teenage son's behavioral problems into demonic possession, resulting in inadequate psychiatric treatment that worsened the child's real problems, Donna revealed. A couple from New Haven described how the Warrens had exploited their grieving process after losing a baby, transforming normal manifestations of grief into a lucrative paranormal case. Donna confessed that for decades she maintained detailed files of similar cases, hoping someday to have the opportunity to expose the truth. I have letters, recorded testimonies, legal documents, photographs, all evidence of a systematic pattern of exploitation that extends far beyond my case, she confessed. The Warrens weren't paranormal investigators. They were fear entrepreneurs who built a commercial empire on the genuine suffering of vulnerable families. The confession revealed the deepest psychological consequences the experience had on Donna. The Warrens' manipulation didn't just steal my story, it stole my basic ability to trust my own perception of reality, she confessed. For years, every time I noticed something unusual or experienced anxiety, I wondered if I was being manipulated again, if my perceptions were real, if someone was trying to take advantage of me. Donna exposed how the experience affected her medical career and personal relationships for decades. I could never form a family of my own because the experience with the Warrens taught me that the most convincing and apparently protective people can be the most dangerous, she confessed. Every romantic relationship ended when I became too distrustful, analyzing every gesture looking for signs of manipulation. The confession culminated with a direct warning about the contemporary paranormal industry. What the Warrens established in the 70s has become the standard model for modern paranormal investigators, Donna warned. The same techniques of psychological manipulation, evidence fabrication, commercial exploitation, and legal silencing are used today by dozens of investigators who have copied the Warrens' methods exactly. Can you think of current paranormal investigators who use techniques similar to those Donna describes? Comment pattern if you recognize these methods in modern paranormal cases and help protect other vulnerable families. In the final part of her confession, Donna not only exposes the truth about Annabelle, but reveals how the case established an exploitation model that continues harming vulnerable families to this day, culminating in an urgent call to action to protect future victims of the predatory paranormal industry. My greatest regret isn't having been a victim of the Warrens, Donna confessed in her final words. It's having remained silent while they perfected their exploitation techniques on hundreds of other families over 5 decades. Every family that suffered after me could have been protected if I had had the courage to speak earlier. The confession revealed that Donna had obsessively followed the Warrens' career for decades, documenting how they refined and systematized their manipulation methods. The Warrens didn't remain stagnant with the techniques they used on me, she explained. They evolved, became more sophisticated, developed broader referral networks, established relationships with Hollywood producers, created a complete ecosystem designed to identify, exploit, and profit from families in crisis. Donna exposed how the success of the Annabelle case inspired dozens of imitators who copied the Warrens' business model exactly. I have identified at least 20 contemporary paranormal investigators who use the exact same techniques: memory, implantation, evidence fabrication, social isolation of victims, legal appropriation of personal stories, and systematic commercial exploitation, Donna confessed. The confession included specific names and details of contemporary cases that Donna had secretly investigated: the Henderson family case in Texas, the Roberts case in Oregon, the Martinez case in Florida, all follow exactly the same pattern the Warrens established with me in 1968, Donna revealed. The techniques are identical. The legal contracts use the same language, even the paranormal narratives follow similar structures. Donna confessed she had tried to directly contact these families to warn them, but frequently arrived too late. By the time I learned of a new case, the victims had already signed silence contracts, were already psychologically committed to the paranormal narrative, were already too isolated from external perspectives to consider they were being manipulated, she confessed. The most shocking revelation was about how Hollywood and the entertainment industry became active accomplices in this exploitation. Movie producers know perfectly well they're buying fabricated stories, Donna confessed categorically. I have seen legal correspondence where the Warrens openly admit they have dramatized for cinematic purposes elements they publicly present as real paranormal evidence. Donna exposed how movies based on Warren cases perpetuate the exploitation cycle by creating new victims. Every Conjuring or Annabelle movie inspires hundreds of families going through real crises to seek paranormal explanations for problems that have real psychological or medical solutions, she confessed. It's a cycle where Hollywood finances exploitation, predatory investigators supply content, and vulnerable families pay the price. The confession included a specific warning about red flags families should recognize to protect themselves. If a paranormal investigator arrives with impressive equipment but never explains how it works, if they pressure you to sign documents before completing the investigation, if they suggest more dramatic events than you remember, if they isolate you from family and friends, if they immediately talk about commercial or media rights, you're being manipulated, Donna warned. Donna revealed she had prepared documented evidence to be released after her death precisely to protect future victims. I have compiled 50 years of evidence about exploitation patterns in the paranormal industry, she confessed. Fraudulent contracts, victim testimonies, legal correspondence, fabrication evidence, all documented and verified. This information will be delivered to consumer protection organizations, state prosecutors, and victim advocacy groups. The confession culminated with a direct call to the audience to take concrete action. It's not enough to know the truth about Annabelle, Donna declared. You need to act to protect other families. Contact your legislative representatives about paranormal industry regulation. Support organizations that provide real mental health services instead of supernatural explanations. Educate vulnerable families about manipulation techniques. In her absolutely final words, Donna offered a message of hope and empowerment. My story with Annabelle began when I was a young nurse who didn't understand I was being manipulated. It ends as an older woman who has dedicated 50 years to understanding exactly how these predators work. You now have the knowledge I didn't have. Use it to protect yourselves and protect others. The confession ended with Donna providing specific resources for victims of paranormal exploitation. If you or someone you know is being investigated by any paranormal investigator, immediately contact the National Center for Victims of Paranormal Exploitation. They provide free legal advice, psychological support, and help getting out of fraudulent contracts. You don't have to suffer in silence like I did. This confession isn't just entertainment. It's a call to action. Comment protect if you commit to sharing this information to help protect vulnerable families from predatory paranormal investigators. Together, we can break the exploitation cycle that began with Annabelle. Subscribe if you want more exposés about famous paranormal cases that have exploited real victims. Share this video to warn other people about manipulation techniques in the paranormal industry. Comment with the name of any contemporary paranormal investigator who uses methods similar to the Warrens, so we can investigate and expose other cases of systematic exploitation. Donna's confession died with her 3 weeks after this recording, but her legacy lives on in every family this information can protect from becoming the next Annabelle.